Hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and Paying for College 101. And I apologize. I think a lot of you signed up last week and I couldn't end up showing up. And I apologize. I had a last minute issue with my son getting sick, and he's all better now. He's fine. Thank you. And but so here we are again. It's a small crowd today. So if anybody wants to put themselves on video, it would be nice. It's just nice to see people's faces. I don't have a formal presentation today. I just wanted to show people our new insights and how to use it. So really feel free to ask questions in chat. I'm kind of just going to use this as an informal session. You can ask questions about almost anything you want as well. So to get started, how about you just put into chat where you're Zooming from, and kind of if you can tell me like what stage, I guess what year in high school your student is and what stage in the process you are. We might have people here who have juniors. We might have people here who have rising seniors. So, what have you done so far? Any sort of research? Maybe you're kind of far along and your student might be working on essays. It's okay. I'm just kind of curious who's here and kind of what mix of experience levels we have. This is recorded. Let me double check. Yes, it's being recorded. And so we will send the link tomorrow. Thank you for putting on video. Nice to see you. Okay. So rising seniors, putting their lists together, rising sophomore, just getting started. Okay, rising junior. So we have a mix of people. Newbie, graduate, daughter heading into her graduating year. So I'm saying graduating year of high school. Okay, great. So I will say the one thing for like the younger parents with younger students, I'm not going to go through like a whole presentation on what is merit scholarships and the different types that are out there with how to and financial aid. We'll have that session again. We usually have that once, sometimes twice a month. This is really just meant to be a shorter session to show you insights and what new data we have and how to use it. So if I say some terminology that you're not familiar with, just ask in the chat, because I'm not going to kind of like start from scratch and give a whole background on financial aid. Okay, so I am going to share my screen and show you what Insights looks like and how to use it. Okay. Can somebody just do a thumbs up? Just make sure that they're seeing my screen correctly. Thank you. Okay, I am going to log out for a second. So you can find the page that I did, or this page that I'm on, by just going to insights.road2college.com. If you go to our main website, Road to College, let's see, which is this one. But we're actually showing a pop-up to try it, so you can get to it that way. You can also get to it by viewing the memberships page, and even if you just want to sign up for free, you can click here and it will bring you into a sign-up page. I'll just show you what that pages look like. So we just ask for basic information: first name, last name, email address, and then your password. And then we'll send a email verification to your email address just to confirm you're the right person. And then after you confirm your password and verify your email address, you'll be asked to sign in again with the actual password. And then you'll be in. So, and then once you're in, and I'm not showing all of this because I'm not setting up a new account, we will ask you a few questions just to kind of create a profile for you. The the three pieces of required information we need to know, which is kind of minor, is obviously first name, last name, email address, actually four pieces. What year in high school your student is graduating, because that really helps us tailor the information to you. It tailors invites that we send for events, because we actually have a lot of events going on, but we don't send the invites to everybody because they might not be appropriate for the stage that you're at. And the last piece of information is just to know, are you a student, are you a parent, or are you a professional? Because we have actually a lot of professional college counselors using the platform as well. So that's the basic information. And then other information we ask are things like, do you have a college budget? And we ask for a range. What's your household income? And it's a range. We're not asking for specific information. Does your student like have an idea of what they want to major in? Actually, and I'll log in and I'll show you the profile. And I'll tell you why we ask those questions, and they're not required, but I'll give you a sense of where we're going with that information. Okay, so here's the profile up in the upper right-hand corner. And if you're a new user, you'll be walked through this information. But as I mentioned, the name, email address, year of graduation, that's required. We ask where your student goes to high school. Again, not required, but we actually gather information about students' offers, when they actually get offers from colleges. And at some point, we are going to try and display that information by high school. So at some point, you'll be able to, and I say, it could honestly be 6 months, be able to look at the offers that students at your that other students at your students' high school actually got. It is a variation of what Naviance shows, but we'll actually display more information. So that's the reason why we're asking for the high school. We ask for the state of residence because we have some information that can show you obviously in-state versus out-of-state tuition. And then we are working on it, but it's not yet live in this version. When you give us information like your student's ACT, your GPA, we're going to be able to obviously, and if you also give us like household income information and your budget and even your student aid index, we're going to be able to use that information and suggest colleges that fit your student and your students maybe academic profile and your family's financial profile. So that's why we're starting to ask that information. We don't use it, we don't share it with anybody. We actually don't even have any partners or like corporations who use this platform. This is really solely parent used and some professionals that they use it for their own counseling purposes. So I just wanted to kind of explain the information here and why we ask for it. Okay, so let's go to Insights. So for those of you who are maybe new to Insights, or this, or even those of you who used to have an older Insights account, this whole dashboard is very new. So we try to pull all the information that we offer in one view, one quick view, and then from the dashboard, you can go to different sections. But the first part up here, My Road, is really just a list of links to our articles that we think are important that people should know about for, again, their kind of year in the year that their students graduating high school. So actually, I'm going to change this because my account has a class of 2025. Let me go to the profile and change it to class of 2026. So I would be like a rising senior. Okay, and then, okay, so really these lists of articles changes by the year of high school, year that your students graduating high school. And I know it might seem trite, but it's really kind of important to look at these articles. I know a lot of you, hopefully you are aware of changes that are happening um, with the government and student loans and the big BBB, the bill that was put in place. I don't really want to call it beautiful, but and more than ever, because of these changes, it is really important for families with rising seniors, families with rising juniors, to understand your financial picture, understand your budget before you can really even start researching, and make that a very important factor in the college research. And the reason is, again, if you're not familiar with the changes, I'll just explain them very quickly. The big change that is in this bill, which is, I shouldn't even call it a bill anymore because it's actually now law, is that parents have a cap as to how much they can borrow. You actually there was a cap before, but the cap was much more generous. So the cap now for parents, which is part of what a loan called the Parent Plus loan from the federal government, is that you and your partner, whether even if you're married or divorced, the two parents have a max of being able to borrow $65,000 over 4 years for one student. So before, actually, in the current framework, a parent can borrow up to the cost of attendance. So if a college costs 60,000 and maybe a student is getting 20,000 in aid, the parent technically could borrow whatever the difference was between the aid and the cost of attendance, in that case 40,000, and they could borrow that every year that they needed it. So, but in this case, it's 65,000 max over 4 years. So that's really important to keep in mind. Your student can also borrow money. They are maxed each year. The amounts change. But in total, they can borrow about $28,000 for 4 years. If they end up going 5 years, they can borrow a little bit more. So when you think about it, that's, if you needed to borrow the full amount between your student and the parent, that is $93,000 for 4 years. Okay, so that really puts a crimp on what schools, if you don't have the full amount to pay for college and you needed to borrow, that really is going to impact the costs of the schools that your student can apply to. So that's why more than ever it's really important to do your research, understand costs, and understand your own budget. The other piece why we created Insights and why I think it's valuable is the other way that parents and students can find money is through merit scholarships. So it's a phrase, you might hear it a lot. You say it, the biggest scholarship your student will receive is from the college itself. I know there's lots of talks about private scholarships. I'm not against private scholarships at all, but I believe that you need to put your effort where you're going to get the biggest return. It's a lot of work to go after private scholarships. People find money there. I'm not denying it, but the same effort that to go after private scholarships versus merit scholarships, you will get a much greater return finding the money through merit scholarships at colleges, if you do the right research with colleges. So that's why, again, finding colleges that are going to offer your student merit scholarships is now going to become even more important. It always was important. Of course, you might have heard the phrase chasing merit. I mean, there are families, from the get-go who know that the only way they're going to afford college is by finding a college that can give their student merit scholarships, and that's the only types of colleges that they apply to, which is valid. It's I'm all for understanding the system and using it to your advantage and hopefully finding a better financial outcome. So anyhow, so going back to these articles, this is the kind of the advice we always gave, about understanding your budget, understanding how colleges, the costs are, and what your student aid index is, and how to build a proper list. It's all the same. We always advise people. It's just even more critically important now. So that's the link to articles up there. And then the other sections here is a list of my lists, which I'm just show you how you're going to create. You can create unlimited number of lists that you want to. You can name them anything you want. We'll go through that. The next section, applications. We are working on this. It's going to be done in probably 2 weeks. It's a section where once your student has decided what colleges they are actually going to apply to, you can actually mark that as an indicator. Again, I'll show you all this, and it kind of moves to the next stage of the process, which is the application tracker. And we just give you a way to track what applications your students are working on, know what deadlines that they have, what else needs to be filled out, like when is the deadline for the financial aid forms, what are the requirements, meaning does the college ask for supplements? Does it have an essay? Does it not have an essay? This is not at all a replacement for the Common App. The Common App is the place where people have to, and students have to fill in their applications. And honestly, ultimately, that's the source of truth about what a college is asking for. We actually take that information from the Common App, and that's what we're using here. But this is just a way to kind of, help the family track what colleges the student actually finally decided to apply to, and just kind of give you a high level way of tracking that the things are getting done. And then the next section, offers, is when you get your offer. Now you can go in to the schools that your student applied to and say, my student got an offer, and then you fill in what the offer is. And then once you fill in the offer, you'll then be able, it's a crowdsourcing tool. You'll be able to see other students who have also shared their offer from the same colleges. And then you can start to compare. Hey, did I get more or less or the same as everybody else? Like, how come this person got more? Maybe they had better academics. Maybe they're from a part of the country that college really wanted to recruit from. So it's just trying to open up the black box of knowing what other students might be offered from the same college. And in addition, you can see past years' offers. If you have, honestly, if you have a paid account now, you'll be able to see offers from previous years. When you actually have an offer from a college and you submit it, you'll be able to see the offers from the current year as well as the past year. So it's kind of like, if you share when you have an offer, then you can see more information. Okay, continuing down and to the library. If you were an existing Insights member, I apologize and know that this was a frustrating part of our platform. We actually had like 2 sections that you had to log in if you wanted to see all of our recordings, and some of them were specific if you were a paying member. But now we have it all in one place. So you can go to the library. We have some, here, I'll pull this up. Some recordings here that are free. We have some downloads that are free. You're not seeing it on my account, but if you had a free account, some of these things honestly might only be available for paying members. But we also have a fair amount that is for anybody. So the pick the boxes with like the more of the purple backgrounds are recordings. Here, I'll just like click up one. You can you can watch the recording. It's basically you're watching it on YouTube here, and you can fast forward and all that type of stuff. And these other things are downloads. So they are tip sheets that we've created, kind of with a quick list of things that you need to know about the topic, or action points that you need to take on the topic. So here, like how to lower your student aid, so click here for the download, and then here is the tip sheet, and then you can download it. So that's, I think, a much more robust resource and easier to get to. And then we do a lot of webinars. Some are free, some are for paying members. They will all go in here. And again, if you're on a free account, you'll see which ones are free versus which ones are paid. If you're on a paid account, you'll be able to have access to everything in this library. Okay. The other two like widgets here is we do work one-on-one with students and families, for different sections of the process. So this is just a link to the different services that we offer. If you have a paying account, and we've got a few levels of paying accounts. If you have the Plus member or premium member account, you get a discount on these services. So, if you are a Plus member, you get 10% discount. If you're premium, you're 20% discount. And sometimes people upgrade, honestly, just to use the discount for a few months, and then they downgrade. But this is where you can see all of those services. And then the last section is we do have partnerships with other companies that offer complementary products and services. And we show those links here. So for example, we are working with a test prep company called Summit Prep. If your student needs test prep, you get a discount on it if you went to them. We've worked with a company called College Well. They offer a special type of 529 where you can lock in tuition at over 300 private colleges. So that actually would be really valuable for, actually anybody on this call. You can use it, you can lock in the tuition up to the June before your student goes to college. We've got a lot of student lenders that we do work with. We work with a company called Mama Bear. I'm sure you've seen it around, where you can get the legal forms once your student turns 18. These legal forms aren't just for students going to college. If your student turns 18, regardless of whether they go to college or not, these forms are important. And then GradGuard, which is a tuition insurance company, you can, for a very nominal fee, basically buy insurance on your student's tuition. So if something happens and your student needs to withdraw, then they will cover the tuition for that semester. So anyhow, lots of different partners that we work with. Okay, so let's go back to actually searching for colleges. So to search for college, you could go to the Discover in the menu. This is a Discover item, or click on this Discover button. Okay, and then you're gonna see a table, which is actually, if you kind of wanted to scroll through all of them, it's like 3,900 colleges. And if you scroll horizontally, you can see these are all the data fields that we have on those colleges. I'd like to say that, we have a piece of data for every field, for every college. It's just not the case, because colleges don't give you every field. But we have as much as we could get our hands on. This information primarily comes from two sources. The primary source is something called the Common Data Set, which, again, like families with younger students, you might not be familiar with. The Common Data Set is data that colleges usually share publicly on their website. You can Google any college. You can do the college name, like Elon Common Data Set, and it will bring you to that specific school's Common Data Set. The Common Data Set itself has a ton of information. They've got probably 10, 12 different sections of information. We don't have absolutely every piece of data on there, because I think it's overwhelming. Could be overwhelming on its own. We picked what we feel is the most important data that people should be looking at, and I'll point out some of those fields. And why Insights is so valuable versus going to a school's individual common data set, which you can and you should, is that when you're looking at an individual school's common data set, that's just it. You're looking at just that school. You're not able to see it in context to other schools. But more importantly, there's no way you can search and say, hey, show me the colleges with all of the common data set information, that where 30% of the students receive merit scholarships. There's no way of doing that reverse kind of searching because there aren't sites that kind of have all of this information in one place and then put a filtering or a sorting layer on top of it. So that's what we did and why we find it so important, because you need to be able to not just go to an individual college's common data set, but kind of search all of them out there and see which of the colleges with common data set information match your criteria. So that's what the majority of this data is here, plus some data from a source called IPEDS, which is the government data that colleges share with the government, plus some data, which I kind of already mentioned, from the Common App itself on requirements. So there's a lot of data fields here. And what's new for our capabilities in this platform, besides we obviously have a whole new look and feel on the platform, what's new is the much more rigorous capabilities of how you can filter and search through the data. So up here in the right-hand corner is this little thing called filters. If you click on it, we did a default of what we thought were the most valuable or most used fields that people search on. And I'll go through them, but you can add a filter and all of the columns that we have here with data will show up. So now you can filter by any column you want and any combination of columns that you want. So for example, a field here called % of the class filled ED, early decision. If your student was actually, even if your student was applying early decision, and even if your student wasn't applying early decision, you might want to be aware of how many students that a particular colleges take early decision. Because if a college takes a lot of students early decision, it means that they're going to have fewer spots available for regular decision. And then obviously it just becomes even harder to get in regular decision. So that might be something you want to search by. I'm just going to, let's just make it and add that to the list. So now I can search by % of class filled early decision, and I have to pick a number. So let's say I want to find all of the schools that like actually rely very heavily on early decision. So I'm going to say that fill their class greater than 40%. Okay, and let's just apply and see what happens. Okay, so now if I scroll down, I'll see that there are the results. There are 76 colleges that actually that have early decision and take more than 40% of their class early decision. Again, this information can go either way for how you want to use it. This could be a negative, meaning like, wow, this school really relies on early decision, and if my student's not applying early decision there, it's just going to be much harder for them to get in. Or if your student is interested in a school and wants to apply early decision, and that school is in this list of 76 schools, well, then actually it might be beneficial because you know that school relies heavily on early decision. So, okay, now you have the results, and now I can filter, or I can sort any of these columns. So let's say I want to also see if there's a college here that I want to see which one of these colleges actually offer merit scholarships. So here's that field. It says here, average merit aid for freshmen without need. So I'm going to sort that column. Okay, let's sort it the other way to find the college that's most generous. So basically the schools that are showing to the top. So Duke is a school that takes a lot of students early decision. It's saying that it offers merit aid, like the highest of 86,000. The other piece of information you have to look at this field is what percent of students actually get that merit amount. So although Duke truly does probably give out a few merit awards of 86,000, it's only going to 2% of the students who actually don't get financial aid. So that's, I mean, that's not likely for the majority of students. But if I scroll down, I can see Gettysburg actually offers $33,000 in merit aid to almost 60% of the students who don't receive any aid. So again, this is just kind of how you can interpret the data and figure out, where you want to kind of hone in further. You could have also done this by adding another filter. So I could say, okay, I still have my filter that says, show me the colleges where they take more than 40% of the students' early decision. And now I can add, but now show me, not that one. I want, average merit aid for freshmen without need. Now show me the schools that also are going to have a dollar amount that's greater than 30,000. And now let's apply that. Okay, so now it's narrowed it down more to 12 colleges. I'll sort the columns to show you that. But if you can see this is a little small maybe for your screen, but right above the gray bar, it says active filters. This is where you can look to say, oh, okay, yeah, what did I filter by? Like what, I don't remember, so now I can say, oh, I filtered by average merit award greater than 30,000 and the percent of class filled ED greater than 40. So it's just like, and you can also quickly say, hey, you know what? I want to take one of these filters away. And then you just click on the X and now you're left with the remaining filters. So, yeah, now we've narrowed it down and you can, start to see, and my sort of this column of the merit award is still staying in the descending sort, so it's still highest to lowest. And I can see now there's Washington and Lee is very generous, but they only give it to 10% of their students. Swarthmore is generous, but they're only giving it to 2% of their students. So, Gettysburg is again up there with giving it to a lot of students. Here's Austin College, who gives merit to 99% of the students. So again, just showing you different ways of filtering. And then you can, as you're doing your search and your filters, you can click on a college, you can click on multiple colleges, and you can say add what I selected to a list. So you can add it to an existing list. I have a lot of lists here because we create a lot of lists for people and to share. So you can add it to your list that maybe you've already created, or you can create a completely new list, create new list. You can title it whatever you want. And now, you have a smaller list of colleges that you might want to go back to and research further. I always say that there's different levels of research and there's different types of research. This is very quantitative based because we're looking at the numbers. Personally, I think this is the type of research you need to do from the start so that you can get your arms around colleges that are academically where your student has a good chance of getting in, and financially where you might be able to afford it. And then you might have a list of 20 or 30 schools. Then you need to go and switch what I say to qualitative research. Then you might need to go through the college's website, or maybe you've been able to visit it. You need to go through the college's website, really understand the college policies, look at the types of classes that they offer in the majors that your student is interested. What, when do they require that a student commit to a major? What other types of programs do they have? that might be of interest to your student. What's the housing like? So that's kind of, all important research that I think, but to me, I don't do that research until I know that it's a good academic fit for a student and it's a good financial fit. And then I can dig into all of those important, some of them, they're not softer aspects, but they're things that, that you might make judgment calls on, as opposed to the numbers, like what it's going to cost is what it's going to cost. Okay, so, and then if I want to clear this list, I can just click on this X, remove all the filters, and I've cleared it. So let me show you a few pieces of information that I think is interesting. I'm going to pull up, you can also click on the college name here, and it will go to the actual detail page of the college. Most colleges, we have a picture, a little description. You can actually add a note that if you want, and you can make the note public or keep it private. So if you, let's say, visited University of Richmond, you thought it was beautiful, they had great programs, you wanted to, type a note here, and you wanted other people to know how you felt about the school, you could type it here, and then you could, take off the thing that says keep private. You could post it with your name, or or you can post it anonymously. So just this is another way of like sharing information or your opinions about a particular college, or if you just want to keep it private for your own purposes because you want to keep your own notes, that's fine as well. So that's a feature. So if you go to, these are different tabs that just show the information that I showed on the table in a different way. So it's all the same information. So this is the school profile. This is, like things like endowment per student. People are actually paying more attention to that these days because of all of the issues and funding that's being taken away from colleges. Percent returning for sophomore year basically is saying, how happy are the students that they are, returning for a second year. There are some schools where you see a drop off. And so that means that the high percentage of students are transferring. Obviously, University of Richmond, they are very happy because 93% of the students are returning. And then there's, things like the breakdown of ethnicity of the enrolled students and the 4-year graduation rate. This is all information that's on the table. This is just a different way of viewing it. I'm going to skip to the section that says aid and merit scholarships. This information is also on the table. You have to click to get a pop-up, but it's easier to see it on the college detail page. This is, if you are a paying member, you will see all of the crowdsourced information for this college. So this is University of Richmond. This is from this year. So it's for students that are going to be in the academic year 2025, 2026. It means that they start this fall, they just graduated high school, and these are families that shared their offer that their student got from University of Richmond. It's all anonymous, so it's not like you can say, oh, I know that's Jane Smith's, son. I mean, likely you won't be able to, because the only information that's here is their student aid index range, because you kind of want to look at families that have a similar financial profile to you, and and then see what type of the academic profile the students had. So people share their SAI range. They share what state they're from, because again, I mentioned earlier, sometimes there are actually obviously state schools that very heavily accept only, students from their state, or they only give out-of-state students merit awards. So knowing the state is important. Sometimes, and you've probably been reading articles a lot now that like southern states have been heavy recruiters of students from the Northeast. So, knowing what state a student is might give an idea of, well, a reason for why they got in versus a student with a similar profile from maybe a state that the college wasn't as interested in, didn't get in. Okay, we share their students' GPA, and then if the SAT or ACT scores show up, it means that that student applied sharing the score with the school. So a lot of schools these days are still test optional. And so a student can decide to share their score. So in this case, this student, the top student here, shared their score and they had a 1,500. If you go down the third offer number 4, that student didn't share their test scores, but they still got an offer. So, and then you can see when they applied, these students applied early action, and this is the dollar amounts that they received. So this is, valuable information. I would, it gives you a sense of not just what the college reported in their information, but what they actually did, because these are, real offers that families are sharing. And then you can go back into previous years as well. So, let's see. Last year there were 25 people that shared the information for this college, and then you can look at it. One little upgrade that we're making, it should be honestly available by Friday, is each one of these columns you'll be able to sort. So there are some schools like Northeastern, Susquehanna, where we have a lot of offers each year, like honestly, probably 60 offers. So it's a little hard to, scroll through here without being able to sort the columns. So we'll have that in place pretty soon. So that's valuable information. I'm going to go back to, here, there's something else, which I'm going to show you in the college detail view, but it's again also visible on the table view. There's this section which is new that we added called admission factors. Let's see if I still have, I'm just looking at the chat. Anybody familiar and know what admission factors are, or have they looked at it? Okay. Oh, yes. Great. Somebody has. So this information is available in the school's common data set. To me, it's like kind of like a little rubric. It's the college telling you what they look at in a student's application and what pieces of the application they find are more important to them versus others. So there are 2 types of factors: academic factors and non-academic factors. So almost every, and then there's, they can rate it as very important, important, considered, or not even considered at all. So almost every college is going to say, your student's GPA is very important. As and a dean of admission who we work with and do sessions with says all the time, colleges are in the business of academics. So let's, you always have to keep that in mind. And so of course, they're going to say that a student's GPA and the student's rigor, how difficult the courses are, is always going to be most important. And, that makes sense. So, but then what could vary is the other factors. So in this case, again, this was University of Richmond, and let's just see, University of Richmond is test optional. I thought they were, but just wanted to confirm. So University of Richmond is test optional, but they're saying that the standardized test score is important to them. It's not very important. It's not the top level, but it's important to them. I have seen schools that are test optional who literally say the test score is considered, so it's lower down. And to me, this is a little bit of a hint saying, okay, yeah, you're test optional, but if a student's sharing their test score, you're gonna view it as an important piece of information. And there's another piece of data let's look at, which is new that we're now sharing, is down in the test scores section. Oh, they don't have it, unfortunately. Not every school shares it. See, there's this field called the percentage of students who enrolled who also shared their SAT scores, or percentage of student who enrolled and also shared their ACT score. Unfortunately, all of this data isn't mandatory that colleges share. So some colleges share it, some don't. Unfortunately, University of Richmond doesn't. But there are schools, if you look at that piece of data now, that say hey, we've had 40% of the students who enrolled and they also submitted their SAT scores. And we've had 30% of the students who enrolled and also submitted their ACT scores. I can't say it's like scientifically solid, or mathematically solid, but I add those numbers together because I don't know that many students these days that are taking the SAT and the ACT and sharing all those scores to colleges. So my belief is a student's really only sharing one category of tests to a college. They're usually either sharing SAT or ACT scores. So when a college shares this information about, the percentage of the student with who enrolled, who submitted their ACT and SAT score, if you add it together, in that case, just a kind of a made up example, the school is saying 70% of the students who enrolled also shared a test score. And then if you kind of extrapolate backwards, if 70% shared a test score or that's who they accepted, it means that they're kind of like, even though they're test optional, they like a student who shares a test score. It's just a clue. I can't say with, certainty that obviously students who didn't share a test score also got in, or, but these are kind of, unfortunately, part of the admissions process is just putting together these pieces of data as pieces of clues, because the colleges aren't transparent. They aren't saying, this is exactly the type of student we're taking, and if your student fits, will automatically be accepted. It is a very opaque process. Okay, so going back to the academic factors, it's important to look at this. And now you can filter in the table by academic factors. And then if you look at the non-academic factors, usually there isn't a non-academic factor that a college is saying is very, very important, because they save that for the academics. But, University of Richmond is saying extracurricular activities are important, makes sense. Character, personality qualities, a talent or ability. So, like the character, personal qualities, again, most colleges have it high. Some colleges have it under considered, but this might be something your student wants to highlight, in the essay, because obviously University of Richmond is viewing that as very important for them. I'll tell you a factor: volunteer work. So University of Richmond has that in considered. Again, I'm sure they want to hear about it, but in comparison, they're saying your extracurriculars and your personal qualities are more important to them than the volunteer work. I have seen schools where volunteer work is in the important section. So that means obviously that is important to them. And then that might be something your student wants to highlight in an essay, because, relative to other schools, a school that lists volunteer work as important is kind of giving you the clue that that's an important factor that they're looking out for. Another piece, which in this case is falling down into the not even considered, is this factor called level of an applicant's interest. It's also, you might have heard the phrase called demonstrated interest. So some colleges view that as important. So they want the student to show an interest in the college. They want the student to have opened emails, to have attended, an information session, to maybe have reached out and written an email to the regional admissions officer who manages their territory, or to, the best is to have visited the college. So some colleges view that as important, and they might have that in the important column. And what that means is, if a college might be, making a decision between several students that all are somewhat similar, they have good, similar academics, maybe the families have similar financial situations, but if one student clearly showed a lot more interest in the college, and that was a factor that was important to the college, then that is probably what's going to tip that student into being accepted versus another student. So in this case, University of Richmond, and it's not a judgment on their school or not, they're saying, hey, it's not important to us. We're not going to look at how much your student interacted with us and whether you got to visit, and that's okay. There are definitely other schools where this is important. Like, I can remember offhand, like Tulane has it in the important section. So if a student, if a college that's on your student's list is saying level of the applicant's interest is important, I would make sure, again, doesn't mean you have to hop on the plane and make it to the next, visit day, but definitely have your student do the other activities, which are, less costly, that show interest. So have them open the emails, have them attend an online, session, have them send an email with a question to the admissions office, just to show that they're digging in and they want to have more information about the college. Okay. What else can I share with you guys? Okay, financial information. This section is where if you've shared, and again, it wasn't required, but if you shared with us that you had a budget, we'll now show you, actually, I didn't even fill it in this sample profile. I didn't fill in my budget, but if I had set a budget, and in this case, let's say I set my budget was 60,000, then as I was looking at this college, then this field is gonna have a number that basically says, hey, alert, this school is over your budget. So doesn't mean my student can't apply. It doesn't mean I can't, research it more, but it's just like a little bit of an alert to say, hey, unless you want to borrow or you've got other resources, or maybe, you're going to make sure that your student gets merit scholarships, this school, based on what you told us your budget is, and based on what this college's, costs are, is over budget. So we're just, making you aware. So that's where we're starting to use some of the information that you give us to kind of, highlight what schools might be above your budget or below your budget. If this was, if my budget was 90,000, then this would say, this would be positive, and then basically say this is within your budget, so no worries. We have a link here to the net price calculator, so you can, go directly to the college's net price calculator and do it, which I encourage everybody to do that for every school their student is applying to. I can't promise that they are completely accurate, but I would run the net price calculator, and I would keep a listing of what the cost is that the calculator gave you. We will have soon the capability within Insights that you'll be able to store that information, but we don't have it yet. So in the meantime, keep it in a separate place, just so that when you ran the net price calculator, this is what the college, or what the calculator said that college would cost you. Okay, so I talked more than I thought I was going to talk, and we have like 5 minutes left. How about I'm going to go through and see what some of the questions are. Okay, so when I try and filter colleges for my daughter, we pick music as a major. I also pick music technology as a minor. It doesn't show any colleges. Okay. Yes, oh, this is just somebody from, they don't have their name. I will say we've only been live with this platform a week and a half. That is a bug that we found that is being worked on and should be fixed, again, by the end of this week, if not maybe Monday. Let me show you the bug, but I'm also going to explain it to you because it doesn't prevent you from really doing your research. Okay, so when I go to filters, we have two fields for searching by major. The first is kind of what and this is kind of how the government and colleges organize majors. The first is general major. So like if I was, interested in biology, biology is up there, general. Okay, but then we know that under biology, there are specific majors. So once you pick a general major, now this drop down shows the more specific majors. Oh, my student's really interested in biomedical science, not just biology. So you can pick a specific major. You don't have to pick a specific major. I will admit our filtering is broken based on specific major. It absolutely works based on general major. It's being fixed. It just doesn't work on specific major. So thank you for bringing that up. Sorry that that's the case. But we didn't want to, I mean, everything, majority of everything else works. So we are working on it. Okay. Good question. Are there any resources or filters by the ROI by major and school? As of now, we do not, but that is great data that we could and look into, and we will, to see how we could do that. I'll also think of what resources there are and see, and then if I can find something good, I can send a link. Is this GPA unweighted? Good question. This is unweighted. In most cases, it's unweighted GPA. I think that there is a little indicator, an asterisk, that would mean that it's a weighted GPA. But the reality is that colleges generally share unweighted GPA. I will say, this is my own personal frustration, that not as many colleges share GPA information as the number of colleges that share test score information. And it bothered me for a very long time until I finally asked a dean of admission, and she gave me I think a valid reason, not, for why this is the case. So schools get the test score information, even if they're test optional, and obviously it's standardized information, and they don't have to do any work, and they can just pass that information on to the common data set, and boom, we have that information. And so if you look through the data, like the majority of colleges are sharing their test score information. And if they're not sharing it, it's not because they don't have it, it's because they don't want to share it. But and it's easy information to get. GPA, I would say 50% of colleges share the GPA information. And that's because, this is what this dean told me, is that as we all know, that GPA is calculated in so many different ways at different high schools, and it takes a lot of work for the admissions office to recalculate the GPA in a standardized way that they could then share publicly and know that all of the information was standardized. So instead, they don't always share the GPA information, which is really frustrating in this day and age, because if a school is test optional, I mean, you look at the test score information and your student wants to apply tests without sending the test. You want to really know what the GPA is, because you need to have some sense of what the academic rigor is of that school. So that's just an explanation why there's a fair number of colleges that don't share their GPA information. But when they do share it, it is unweighted, because just that's the easiest way for them to share. But kind of pulling all this together, this is a great question for your student to send to a college, the admissions office or officer. If you can't find GPA information about the incoming class and you want it, I would definitely ask the college. They may be willing to just share it, as a one-off piece of information, or they might point you to a resource that's, not as public, that other people don't know about. So definitely, if there's information that we don't have, that you can't find on a college's website, I strongly encourage you that you or your student ask the college directly for that information. I mean, this is a huge decision on lots of levels. It's where your student's going to spend 4 years. It's where they're going to, get a degree. It's where you're going to spend a lot of money. If you've got questions and you have data that you want to see if is available, you should definitely not feel that you can't ask. You should be able to ask almost any question that you want. Okay. Oh, is there a good way to figure which schools target national merit scholars? We don't honestly have that here right now. I will say that although getting a national merit scholarship is prestigious, it's important, it's a great achievement, it doesn't actually get you that much from a financial standpoint from a college. I think and don't quote me, but like the scholarship, most scholarships are an extra $2,000 that the colleges are offering to National Merit Scholarships. They might, accept students with a National Merit Scholarship into the honors program more easily, but we don't have that information right now because it's not as valuable from a financial standpoint. It's not going to help a student really, make a school more financially affordable. So are the common data sets most recent data available? It's a mixed answer, but I'll tell you what the answer is. We have some schools where we've started to manually update the common data set, but we license this data from a company called Peterson's, and Peterson's, actually, we have a meeting with them this week, is releases the new data, on a certain schedule. And in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, we will be getting all of the new common data set information through Peterson. So it just is a little bit of a time lag. I mean, this is for all websites that might use common data set information, because just think about the time that it takes, to process data. Peterson's is gathering all this information from colleges, and then they have to clean it and, get it prepped. And then they send it out to people who are licensing it from them. And it's really only since like April that colleges have started to share their new common data set. And so it's a trickling, and probably majority of them really share it in June. So, that's why here we are, end of July, and we're close to getting in mass, like all of the new common data set information. So it is very close. The fields that we have started to update are the tuition fields, because that information actually is always out of date on the common data set, because it's like last year's tuition data. We go through 1,500 colleges and actually go directly to the tuition website, the page, and pull the most recent tuition data, which usually isn't displayed until sometime after June 1st, because that's when they set new tuition rates for the next year. Okay, what else? Would you see the admission rate by major? I wish we could. There is, I think, like 5 colleges or less who even share that information. So just colleges aren't sharing admission rate by data. The 2 colleges that come to mind that are pretty transparent and share that is University of Illinois. They do actually a beautiful job. Actually, 3 colleges. University of Virginia shares that information by major. You have to dig to get it. And University of Washington shares that information, admissions rate by major. There might be others, but those are the major ones that I know of. And there's just not a source. Colleges just honestly want to keep that a little bit transparent. They don't want you to know if there's a advantage to your student applying and telling them that they're interested in a certain major or not. So sorry, wish I had a better answer for that. Okay, last question. Are there any data points that show top majors, the number and percent of total graduating class? We do not have that data as of now. Or I can look to see, how easy it is to pull it in. But you can go to a college's, you can go to the iPads, the government's data website, and you can type in whatever college you're interested in, and you can look at the majors there, and they do show you number of students graduating with that major. So that gives you a sense of, which are the top majors by the number of students who have majored in it and then graduated with it. Okay. So let me look through the rest of these questions. It is, um, so somebody is asking, this is Jessica, if you want to actually send me an email to show me an example, you're saying that the cost of attendance numbers are much lower than the College Aid Pro numbers. Let me know which ones that you're looking at and I will dig into it. So I hope that this was helpful. If you use the tool and you have more questions, please feel free to email me. You can email at support@road2college.com. You can email me, at debbie@road2college.com. And definitely, if you find a bug, let us know. We're trying to fix things as fast as possible. If you have an improvement, a suggestion, we will definitely consider it and look into it. So thank you everyone for coming in the middle of the day. Thank you for coming after, a lot of you showed up last week and I couldn't make it. And hopefully this is helpful and that you are on your way to doing good research and making good decisions. Oops, let me stop sharing. Okay. Everyone have a good rest of the day. Bye.